Yeah, well, I think the reason Wendy and I chose Stroud is probably because we had restored properties in the past, and we've been on the lookout for a property that had some historical significance that we might be able to restore. And we stumbled across this property in Stroud, and from that moment I think we fell in love with this property, Stroud, and its history.
Oh, this spot, it's peaceful. It's relaxing. Take a deep breath as you come into town. It's like the people are friendly. Right from the start, it's always been very welcoming. Stroud's beautiful. Yeah.
Okay, how do we go about this particular restoration project? Well, we drew on our experience in previous restoration projects. We engaged some very good local tradespeople who helped immensely. We also worked with the Stroud and District Historical Society, who have some amazing members who were able to give us a lot of input. I think the other part is that we referred to the Borough Charter, and it was actually the Historical Society that originally put us onto the Borough Charter. And the Borough Charter defines the process, procedures for restoring historical objects in Australia. I won't go into the details, but if you look at our website, we put quite a bit of information around those procedures, processes, guidelines, which we adhered to as much as possible. I wouldn't say that it was to the letter, but where possible, we did adhere to them.
Oh, well, Eamonn loves all the brickwork. So do I, actually. It just highlights the history of the place. When you see all the exposed brickwork, you can see it behind us here now, but I think it's the feeling of stepping into something old. The wood, I love the wood, all the woodwork. We've tried to restore a lot of that, bring it back and highlight the crooked frames in the doorways, little things like that we notice, and hopefully others will as well.
Yeah, I think when you look at the bricks and you understand that they were handmade by convicts back in the 1830s, it gives you a deeper appreciation for the fact the building's still standing. But I think it's also worth mentioning that to actually get to the brickwork, we had to take off nearly 200 years of other people's restoration work. So prior to electricity, they put up hardwood stud walls over the bricks with some masonite and other materials on top. And there was layers and layers of wallpaper and mess everywhere that we had to pull off before we could even start thinking about how we'd go about trying to restore it in a way that showed its original structure. So I think some of the other things that we really love, like Wendy mentioned the timbers, but when you look at the timber floor, which we had to lift and then machine and relay. But that's timber that was laid 200 years ago, and the tree was probably near 100, it's Australian hardwood, so it was probably near 100 years old when it was pulled down. So you walk on this timber and you go, like, I mean, this was a sapling 300 years ago. And to me, that's significant.
Yeah. I was going to say the beams as well, the rods that have gone through to hold the place together. I like the way they look as well.
So that was in the early 1900s.
Yep.
A way that they stopped the place falling over was by putting wrought iron bars throughout the place, and you'll see the S's, I call them treble clefs, but the S's that on each wall, and there's a bar that runs between which holds the wall from falling over. And most of the walls, when you look at them, are on anything from a 15 to 25 degree angle falling out, and they would have fallen over otherwise.
Oh, there were a lot of challenges. There was a lot. It's like all restorations and renovation works. You pull a little piece off, you think it's going to be okay. It's going to be a quick fix. This was a 6-month project that went 5 years. Everything was a little surprise. So you'd start it and you go, okay, well, we'll pull this piece off this wall and it'll look fabulous underneath. And you know what? It didn't. The builder had to come through and rebuild lots of areas. But something like this, you always underestimate the cost and the time that it takes and your sanity as you get halfway through. But I think the end results, you kind of say, yeah, it was worth it.
Yeah, definitely. I think, as I mentioned before, to get to the gold, we had to pull off and take away other people's efforts.
Nothing here is square, nothing here is level. Still, nothing is straight. Maybe the floor. I think the floor is about the only thing. So we've stopped feeling seasick as you walk through the property, and now it's comfortable.
Yeah, I think if this place was pulled down and rebuilt, would have cost a magnitude less and taken significantly less time to do. But
you don't have the same end result though, do you?
Yeah.
Oh, the history. The history and the comfort that it now provides. So they get a small glimpse. It's a mix of, how would you describe it?
The evolution, I guess.
Yeah, so you'll be able to see the stages through time. Yes, we have to have electricity because nothing else operates like that. We've got your pull-down switches on all your lights so that you can get a bit of an idea that you don't walk in and look for a switch on the wall. We don't have those here for the most part. So I think appreciating the history, but also enjoying the creature comforts that we all want when we travel and stay in certain places now.
Yeah, and I think like the evolution, so where possible we've gone back to day dot, like with the bricks and some of the timber work, but in other parts, like Wendy said, there are parts of this that require electricity. And when you look at the totality of the history of this building, electricity has probably only been here for maybe a third of its life. So in the hallway we've created, or Wendy actually created, a collage of all the wallpapers that we found underneath. There was a time when candle soot and fire soot stained the walls, so what you did was you put another layer of wallpaper over the top. So there's layer upon layer of wallpaper.
There's a few of those.
Yeah, and little things like that are just, I think, an interesting part of the evolution.
It's not saving things along the way. There's a lot of things we found under the floorboards, which you'll see in a cabinet in the property, that we've highlighted a lot of the old coins, and there were unfired bullets as well as the bullet casings that we put in there. The unfired bullets obviously aren't on display, but badges and
Freemason artefacts and memorabilia that was found under the floor.
That are on display there, and we've investigated a few of them, but they're just part of the story, aren't they? We have no idea where they came from, who they belong to, when they arrived, or what they represent, but they give you an idea of how things, these are all things that fell through the floorboards, like gaps, and a lot of them are in front of fireplaces, yeah?
That's where people used to sit, so they used to sit, things might fall out of their pockets. The legacy we would like to leave behind is probably another 200 years. It's approaching 200 years of age now. We have tried to undertake the restoration, renovation work so that it is sympathetic to its history, but also strong and robust enough to keep standing for hopefully another 200 years. And I think so this was built by the Agriculture Australia Company with convict labour. The Agriculture Australia Company, I think, owned it, and it was sold in about 1857 to Thomas Lehman back then. But the Agriculture Australia Company logo has an English oak leaf branch and also a eucalypt, to represent obviously Australia, where the Agriculture Australia Company traded, but also it was formed by Act of Parliament in 1824 in England. So we've actually planted a English oak tree in the backyard, and they take 100 years to mature. And also between 20 and 50 years before their first fruit, their first acorn. So I think part of Wendy and I's legacy is that we want to pick some of the first fruit that comes off of the first acorns that come off somewhere between 10 and 40 years from now.
Yeah, and that it's still standing, that the town can enjoy it as well. People travelling through can have a little glimpse at their history, and Stroud's so full of history. There are so many buildings here, so many structures that take you back in time. You can literally walk through sections of town when you go, wow, I get a feel for what it was like that long ago. So we're hoping that 50 years, 100 years from now, this will still be standing. We've done enough to keep it standing, and that people will continue to appreciate what convicts, early settlers were able to achieve and still stands. Do you know, like how many buildings nowadays are built, they're knocked down, it re-goes, but Stroud has got so much to offer, and we just wanted this particular place to be a part of it as well.
Yeah, I think feeding on from that too, it's about storytelling in part. So also when you walk around or you visit our website, we have photos, plaques telling stories. For example, we've got a big print on a wall that tells Thomas Lehman's story. And the fact that he's credited with building, some of the other Stroud iconic buildings is, St John's Church, Stroud House, Burrell House, many others he's credited with. We want to, in part, preserve that story by telling the story a little bit through what we've done here also.
We just want people to step back in time a little bit as they come through. Hopefully we've done that.